Oh, and my homeboy Jesus also qualified there in 9th place. Oh, that was a bad joke, bro. Bad joke. What is up, you sexy beasts? I hope you guys are doing fantastic wherever you are in the world. I am still going strong on the old black coffees. It's new, it's all new to me, and I'm really enjoying it. Second coffee of the day, no milk, just iced black coffee. Love and life. Hey, I thought today, let's talk about the Open. Who actually won this thing? Who won the Open on the male and female side worldwide, but also within each of the regions? But before we do that, I saw an interesting article this morning written by Brian Friend on the Morning Chalk Up. I consider Brian a good friend. So Brian, thank you for the awesome work you do. There are some points on this article that I agree with and some that I don't. So I thought let's discuss it. One of the first points that Brian brings up is that CrossFit is repeatable and measurable, and ever since the start of the Open, we've always had a repeat workout. And he says in here that the repeat workout is perhaps the best opportunity for us as a community to maintain this original foundational part of what CrossFit methodology is. And I'll have to disagree with that. I think the Open is a test, and it might be cool to repeat a workout and see how you went last year, but I think the overwhelming testing ground for your fitness is in the affiliate during the year, day to day. I certainly do not look at the Open as being the testing grounds for my fitness. I look at the tests I do throughout the year, the 100 maxes I do, the benchmarks I repeat. I view those as my biggest opportunity to track my fitness and to compare, my better self to my previous self. The Open, I think, it's an opportunity to measure yourself against your peers that are doing the same workout, or the elites that are doing the same workout as you, so you can compare yourself to them. But to say that the repeat workouts in the Open is the best opportunity for us as a community to maintain that original foundational part of what CrossFit is, I think it's a little bit far-fetched, but I see where Brian's coming from. Personally, I don't like a repeat workout in the Open. I like fresh, new workouts in the Open. I feel like you can always do the Open workouts during the year to see how you've improved, but when the Open rolls around, I prefer seeing all new tests, or maybe a slight variation like we did see in 22.3. It was a variation on last year's 21.3. What about you? Do you like repeat workouts, or do you prefer all the tests in the Open to be fresh and unique? The next point that Brian talks about is the amount of tests overall. This year we only saw 3 tests, and I was convinced that in the last week, like last year, we would see 22.3 A and B. We see a second part to the test that will be separately scored, giving us 4 tests overall. And I agree with Brian that 3 tests, it just doesn't quite feel complete. I would have loved to have seen a 4th test. So in the past, we've had the 5 weeks, the 5 tests. I do feel like that is too much, or it drags on for too long. I feel like last year was the sweet spot. 3 weeks, 4 tests. That's what I like. But let me know, what do you think? Do we go to 4 weeks? Do we kind of go in the middle and do 4 tests over 4 weeks? Or do we like 3 weeks with an additional add-on test throughout one of the weeks? He then goes on to talk about the lack of monostructural movements in the Open this year, mostly talking about the rower, right? Like the rower, the Concept 2 rower is really the only thing that every CrossFit gym in the world has. I would be very surprised if there's a CrossFit gym in the world that does not have a Concept 2 rower. I still don't feel like we can include things like an assault bike or a Rogue Echo bike or a ski erg or a Concept 2 erg. I still feel like there's a lot of gyms that don't have those, but the Concept 2 rower has always been a staple in the CrossFit world. And so that got left out this year, maybe even last year as well. Whereas the rower has always been a part of the Open. And I think you got to take into consideration where we are at in the world currently with COVID and lockdowns and people training from home. I wouldn't be surprised if CrossFit is leaving out the rower for that reason alone. Just that a lot of people just don't have access to gyms. And so I would hope to think that is the only reason, and that perhaps next year the rower would return. Other than skipping and rowing, those are really the only 2 monostructural movements we can do at this stage. And obviously we had the skipping this year. So yeah, I agree with Brian. I would love to see the rower come back into the Open, but at the same time, I do understand and I can see why it has been excluded this year. No Olympic lifting in the 2022 Open. I don't know how I feel about that. I love the Olympic lifts, and I feel like a lighter power version of the snatch or the clean and jerk is appropriate even for more beginner athletes. but I feel like CrossFit is trying to make this thing as inclusive as possible, especially now that we have quarterfinals. You almost have to see the Open and the quarterfinals as a package. The quarterfinals being there to accommodate for those, the 10% of us, not me, the 10% of you, the 10% of athletes that are capable of moving on to that. They get to see some more exciting movements and more advanced movements at that stage. So I guess from a selfish standpoint, I would have loved to have seen the snatch or the clean and jerk, but at the same time, I don't think it is necessary for the 3 weeks of the Open. I do think we can have a fun time and not have those movements in the Open. And that again just makes it more accessible, less daunting. The whole idea behind the Open, I think, is it's a marketing effort, really. It's a marketing exercise to try and get more people into CrossFit boxes. And the more accessible you can make it, the better, I think. And so perhaps that is a reason why we didn't see the clean and jerk and the snatch this year. Maybe they are trying to make this thing as accessible, as basic, and make it the least intimidating version possible. And that leads on nicely to Brian's next point, which was there wasn't anything very heavy in the Open this year. You know, the heaviest thing we saw was that deadlift, about 100 kgs, 225 pounds, roughly around that. And I think I would have to disagree with that. I am a fairly experienced CrossFitter, and I would lie if I said that I didn't find that 100 kg barbell heavy towards the end of the workout. Okay, it wasn't heavy at the start, but it certainly was a challenge to pick up towards the end of the workout. And so I feel like if it felt heavy for me, someone who's been doing CrossFit since 2009, surely that's heavy enough for the rest. And again, those who move on, they are going to see something heavier. They're going to see something more complex in the next stage for sure, the quarterfinals. So I think those two, the Olympic lifts and the heavy weights, I feel like those two are the same argument when it comes to making the Open more inclusive and more user-friendly for new people to take part. The next point was around the movement patterns, and Brian pointed out that in 2 of the workouts we had basically exactly the same movement patterns, and I believe he's referring here to workout 1 and 2. Both those workouts had hinging at the hip. You know, we had the dumbbell snatch in workout number 1, and then we had the deadlift in workout number 2. We had the wall walk, which was a pushing movement, and then the burpee off the ground, which is another pushing movement. So I guess the movement patterns were very similar across those 2 workouts. But I feel like when it comes to functional training, you know, functional training by definition is using your entire body. And so if you're using your entire body, you know, you're kind of covering all bases. You are always, with most of the movements, you're doing a combination of hinging and squatting and extending and flexing. It's very hard to, I think it's very hard to create a test where every workout doesn't have some kind of crossover. I think you're always within CrossFit, there's always going to be crossover in the tests, right? You can basically pick out any regional or sanctional or semi-final competition, look at the workouts, and you'll be able to find similar movement patterns across all the workouts, because that is just what functional training is. So again, I see his point, and I do feel like for me, my back was definitely still tender from the dumbbell snatches and the box jumps when I came to the deadlifts. But hey, what are you gonna do? That's CrossFit. So maybe if they flipped around workout 2 and 3 and had the squatting and the pulling for workout number 2, you know, that's perhaps a bit of a break from the hinging and the pulling off the ground. So I think it's a valid point. I think it's a valid point, Brian. I agree with you on that one, I think. Yes. And then lastly, it was the narrowest margin of time caps in Open history. So the time caps within the workouts, what do we have? A 10, a 12, and a 15. So very similar time domains, very narrow margins. I think in the past we've had much longer ones and much shorter ones. I think with this one you can argue it depends what athlete you are, right? The last workout was 4 time, and we saw athletes finishing in 4 to 5 minutes. Maybe was it sub 4? There may have been a sub 4 even. No, surely not. 4:07 on the men's side, 4:11 on the ladies' side. No sub 3s, but you know what I'm saying. Depending on what kind of athlete you are, would determine the time domains. If the workout is for time and you're very fit, you can get it done within 5 minutes. And then for the AMRAPs, you still have to do the full 10 or 12 minutes of the AMRAP. So it does depend on what kind of athlete you are, but I hear what he's saying. As far as the time caps go, they were very narrow. And yeah, it would be nice to see a bit of a longer chipper, or you know how they used to do the ones where you kind of get to a checkpoint, and if you get that checkpoint, another 4 minutes get added to your workout. I quite like those ones, and I miss those for sure. So what do you think about those points? What do you think about the Open overall? In my last video, I expressed my gratitude towards CrossFit and how awesome I thought the Open was. And then I saw this article that kind of just pointed out some of the things that maybe are changing or are different to previous years. I don't think it was a negative article. I think it's all valid points to point out. So it'll be interesting to see whether it continues this way and what changes we'll see next year. But as always, you guys are the smart ones, you know? I want to hear from you, so let me know. Okay, let's see, who won the Open, eh? Let's start on the worldwide stage with the ladies. Young Mallory O'Brien from the HWPO team took it out, first place. Now, all of these I believe are still unofficial, but this is as it stands today. I'm sure they might still have to verify some of these videos, but at the moment, Mel in first place. She went first on workout 1, second on workout 2, and first on workout 3. Unbelievable. Couple of names that I'm really happy to see on here. First of all, Brooke Wells in 5th place. That's awesome to see her, you know, back up the top, just so shortly after the elbow dislocation and surgery. Loving the fact that Jamie Simmons is back. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Jamie Simmons, previously Jamie Green from New Zealand, she's back in the mix in 10th place there, and she should be at the Torium Pro, which is exciting. And obviously Ali Turner, big fan of Ali, and I'm glad to see Alexis Raptors up there. Alexis Raptors just narrowly missed out on the games last year, and I reckon she's an amazing athlete, so cool to see her in there as well. On the men's side, young Saxon Panchik from the Proven team, taking it out. Oh, it's good to see an Aussie in there. My good man, Jay Crouch in 7th place there. Justin Medeiros is in there. Young Dallin Pepper in 10th place. Dallin Pepper and Alexis Raptors, those two athletes, for some reason, I just got a soft place in my heart for them. You know, they just missed out narrowly last year at the semis, and it's good to see them up in the top 10. Hopefully both of those guys can punch their tickets to the games this year. South Africa. No, I should say Africa, sorry. Africa. We have on the men's side, Kealan Henry. I'm a South African. I should really know how to pronounce these names. Good man there, first place. And hey, Jason Smith in 8th place. He's not a young man, but he's hanging in there. On the ladies' side, we have Lee Kiros. And then the other name you might recognize on the ladies' side there is Michelle Basnet. Moving on to the Asia region, on the ladies' side, we have Shur Kaya. On the men's side, Alexander Ilin. And then the other name you'll see on there that you might recognize is Roman Krinikov. Moving on to Europe, on the men's side, Victor Langdal took it out. You'll recognize that name because he actually won 22.1 worldwide. Who else is up there? Jonakoski, BKG, and my homeboy Jesus also qualified there in 9th place. Oh, that was a bad joke, bro. Bad joke. On the ladies' side in Europe, Laurie Clement. And who else is there? Emma McQuaid, Gabriella Magawa, 5th place, looking good. Annie in 6th place. Very nice. North America, as we mentioned before, Mel O'Brien won the Worldwide Open. She also won the North American Ladies Open. Did you know that you could win one of these and not the other? You could win your region's Open, but if the second person in your region bet you on one of the workouts and the margin worldwide was great enough, they could actually overtake you in the worldwide rankings. Just a fun fact. You can actually win your region's Open and then place worse than the second person in your region on the Worldwide Open, if that makes sense. Anyway, just a little fun fact. I'm full of knowledge, you know? Some of the other names that jump out here is Danny Spiegel, still looking good there, 6th in North America. Young Annika Greer from Canada in 8th place. And then Ariel Lowen, the mum, she's still there in 8th place as well. Then on the men's side, like we said, Saxon Panchik won the Worldwide Open. He won the North American. And then look at that 10th place, Mr. Rich Froning, still one of the fittest in America. Moving on to the Oceania region, our region here, Mr. Jay Crouch took it out. Ricky Garrard in 2nd place there. Look at the margin that Jay Crouch won by. That is massive. On the ladies' side, Tia took it out. It's great to see Ali Turner up there in 2nd place. And like I mentioned, Jamie Simmons is back in the mix. And then Jessica Coughlin, man, in 9th place there. She's been around for years and she just keeps coming back for more. Maddie Sturt, she is girlfriend of Jay Crouch, and I think she is hungry to go to the games this year. I don't think it sat very well with her that Jay got to go last year and compete and she had to spectate, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Madeline Sturt on the podium this year, but she's got some stiff competition. And last but not least, South America, looking at the ladies' side here, Melina Rodriguez. I just wish I could speak multiple languages and just pronounce everything perfect, but I'm only human. And then another name that jumps out here, number 3, Wykie Campos, Victoria Campos. I've mentioned Wykie on here before. She started CrossFit at my gym in Auckland. I introduced her to CrossFit, and so I feel like I've got some kind of input here when it comes to her 3rd place finish in South America. She's been training with the Mayhem crew. I've got high hopes for her this year. I want to see her at the CrossFit Games. Let's go, Wykie, let's go. And finally, the South American men, we have Augustin Richalme. Gonna leave it at that. Good man. And obviously we can see Guy Malheiros and other legends on there as well. So there you go. That is your unofficial Open winners. Obviously for these athletes, the Open is not really a focus. It's a bit of a formality to just tick the box and move on to the quarterfinals. But you still see some of the best are right up there. And I'm excited. Quarterfinals is not this weekend, but the weekend after, which is great because I'm going on not my honeymoon, my 12th year wedding anniversary with Bex. We have a fun weekend planned. We're gonna go tenting on our anniversary, glamping I should say. It's like a really nice, everything's pre-done for you. Anyway, maybe I'll do a little vlog if she'll allow me from the campground. My tribe, that's it. It's fun. It's fun to be back in the office and do some kind of CrossFit news style stuff, some commentary. So let me know down in the comments all your thoughts and all the things. Okay, stay sexy, keep roaring love. I'll see you soon. Mwah.